Good evening, everybody. I just wanted to touch base with you about some things that I've noticed about the hypocrisy going on in churches and families that go to churches. Like teaching materials, the hypocrisy between allowing children to read or participate in teaching materials in schools, such as books, media, movies. Um, Parents, specifically referring to a lot of our Christian parents or so-called Christian parents, are really having some outrage against Harry Potter books, TV shows like Charmed, movies like Craft or The Craft. It's a lot of hypocrisy. Parents in religious buildings, they will carry on and on and on, and they tell children that there's too much violence in witchcraft. Well, they take their children to the church building, and what do the kids see when they're in the service? It's a guy on a cross up front, and they have that prominently displayed, if not in front of the building, a guy on a cross. Now, here's the thing about I. Let me just go ahead and get in order because I'm really fired up about this topic. Um, in the Bible, there's murder, rape, cannibalism, incest. They cut a woman in parts and sent her pieces of her body all throughout the land. Lots of violence, okay? And the thing about doing such things, it's horrible. How can you sit there and make your kids learn this stuff? Think about it. Why are you letting your children learn this stuff? It's R rated. The Bible is the worst R rated book that you'll ever come across. Okay, it's worse than all the others. It's worse than the fiction they come up with today. You cannot find better a better promoted violent book than the Bible. Um, the thing is, they keep on saying that all these different TV shows and books, it's all Satanist. You know, they love to throw that word Satan. It's Satanist. It's witchcraft. It's black magic. All of which is, except for Satanism, all of that is in the Bible. Witchcraft is in the Bible. Black magic is in the Bible. Um, Bloodletting, violence, cursing, everything like that. Not only that, Satanism wouldn't exist if it weren't for the Abrahamic faiths. Okay, because you've got the Abrahamic faiths go like this. First, it started with the Judaism, or current day it's called Judaism, the Hebrews, Israelites. Okay, then you got Christians. Then you got the Islam or Muslims. Okay, and if it wasn't for the Christians, you wouldn't have Satanism. Satanism wouldn't exist if the Abrahamic religions didn't exist. Please understand that. Satanism would never exist had it not been for these religions. The Church of Satan, they don't literally believe in Satan. Christians do. Anyway, I'm about to get off the subject, and I don't mean to. Anyway, so almost all the wars in the past 2,000 years come from religious wars. And it's usually one, if not more, than in the Abrahamic faiths than the others, against another one. What? Anyway, Harry Potter, the TV, Harry Potter, the book, and TV shows like Charmed, movies like The Craft again, compared to that, there's tons of black magic in the Bible. You've got people being forced to do things against their will. Think about the Pharaoh whose heart was hardened by God when he was wanting to let the Israelites, excuse me, the Hebrews go, or the Israelites. They were called Israelites at the time. He wanted to let them go, but God hardened his heart. Remember that? That's black magic. You know that, right? It's making somebody do something against their will, and they have no desire to do it, they have no will to do it, and they're being made to do it. That's black magic. What you all call black magic. Magic is just magic, okay? Do it using magic for evil purposes. Let's call it what it is, okay? We must call things as they are as opposed to dialectics. And here I used another dialectic by using the word dialectic. Anyway, we can go round and round on that. Anyway, but stop and think for a minute, especially if you're Christian or you've come up in a Christian background. And I want you to stop and just make your mind go quiet. Go quiet for a few minutes. Stop that chattering monkey in there. Consider all the violence in the Bible after Yahweh showed up. Yahweh is the Lord. God in Genesis 1 is Elohim. The gods and goddesses created male and female in their image. They created them. Okay. And you can look that up in Genesis. I'm not going to hold your hand and do this for you. Sorry. If you call yourself a Bible scholar, you need to look it up yourself. Go find yourself a concordance. Or if you don't want to pay that kind of money into it, you can get yourself, go to BibleHub.com and you can look up the words. You can look up the interlinear, King James Version, all the different versions, but still look it up and see what these words actually mean. So, Genesis 1, there's no Yahweh. There's no Lord yet, okay? There's just Elohim, which means gods and goddesses. There's no violence in Genesis 1. That's right. There's no violence in there. Guess what they were eating? Vegetables and fruits, okay? Adam and Eve, or man and woman, let me be clear here. Man and woman were eating vegetables and fruits, and they could eat of all the earth. If you don't believe me, check it out for yourself. Genesis 1, just read chapter 1. Write everything down if you want to, and the order in which things were made too. Write that down. But anyway, I'm back to it. Okay. So chapter 2 here chapter 2, Genesis, Yahweh shows up. That's when the lying starts and the deceit starts and the cursing start, soon to be followed by animal sacrifice. Yeah, because they didn't have it. Animals were not being sacrificed in Genesis 1. Why? They weren't being eaten. Not by humans. So why was this new animal sacrifice stuff happening? If you remember Cain and Abel, Cain was offering to Yahweh vegetables, grain, seeds, and offering the first fruits of what the garden, what was produced out of the garden, or produced from the land, if you will. Okay, and Abel was showing up with meat and flesh and sacrificing that to Yahweh. Why? There was no edict about that. Yahweh liked it. The Lord, let's be clear. The Lord. There's a difference between Genesis 1 where it says God and Genesis 2 where it says the Lord. Okay? Now, so then there's animal sacrifices. That's, after that, all that bloodshed, that's when murder took place too. Okay? Now you've got murder, the first case of murder according to the Bible. Okay, so then there's more cursing, and then there's flooding and cannibalism, pedophilia, and possible cross-species mating. And to hear some people tell it about the Nephilim and all that stuff. Okay, extra biblical books. I'll just say it that way. All of this happened before Abraham showed up. Now, so Abraham comes along. He's got his thing going on, and he was abusing Sarah, right? You consider it. And tell me, men, how many times would you make your wife do this? You have to consider, he told Sarah, if you love me, you will tell Pharaoh that you are my sister, not my wife, because I don't want to be killed. So Pharaoh is banging Sarah, then finds out that she's married. So he gives a guilt offering to Abraham for whatever. That's crude. That stuff's crude, man. He put her out there like a hoe. He was pimping her out. That's what happened. Don't even be fooled about this. Okay. Abraham pimped out Sarah. Yes, that's what that was. Your gut instinct is sitting there saying, yeah, she's right. Yeah, she's right. But your mind is sitting there saying, no, he was trying to save his life, and they took refuge in Egypt, blah, blah, blah. you know your gut instinct is right, and that's supposedly the word of God right there when your gut instinct goes off, right? Yeah. Anyway, so Pharaoh was banging Sarah, finds out she's married. Later on, of course, he gave gifts to Abraham and everything. And so later on, Sarah is still without child. She's still without child. And so she offers her servant, Hagar, to Abraham. So Sarah passes on the abuse to Hagar. Says, let her carry your child. Perpetuating that abuse, that cycle of abuse. You know how they say there's a cycle of abuse? If one's been abused and then they abuse others and it continues on. That's what happened with Hagar. So Hagar, and don't forget, this is sex abuse trafficking. Know that. This is trafficking. That's a key word that's going on these days is human trafficking, sex trafficking. Oh yeah? Started with Abraham, right? Anyway, so Hagar gets pregnant. And Sarah starts to resent her and starts ratcheting up the abuse, starts being more abusive to Hagar. Hagar says, I'm out of here. She's an Egyptian. She ain't playing that stuff. She's out of here. So she tries to return to Egypt, the land of her people. She's stopped by Yahweh or Yahweh's messenger, angel, whatever have you. Yahweh, the Lord who tells her to go back to the abusers. What? I'm going to tell you right now, if you're being abused, don't go back. Get out of there and don't go back. Never go back to the abuser. Sorry, guys. There's a fact. I've done reports on this on Quantum Connections on tfrlive.com. Once a man hits you, guess what? It's kind of like Dracula coming in the front door. You invite him in. If you go back, that means you're permitting it. Get away from the abuser. Yeah. You never go back. I'll never go back to an abuser ever, 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 ever. And the fact is if they live through it, because I won't put up with that again. That's probably why I'm single and I'm going to stay single, because raise a hand to me and I'm done with you. They won't find your body. But anyway, I digressed again. Sorry about that. So what are we teaching children here? When you make them learn that Bible, you're teaching them abuse. You're teaching them to be either the recipient or the abuser, if not both. I mean, you're making them look at a dead guy on a cross. Oh, it's Jesus. Well, what if it was somebody else? What if there was another guy, a different depiction of a man on a cross? Is that not Jesus either? Or what? How do you know it's Jesus? That dead guy on a cross, you think that's Jesus because they said so? Jesus used to have blonde hair. He used to have black hair. He used to have all kinds of different color, blue eyes, brown eyes. Come on, guys. Okay. It's abuse. That is abuse. You're abusing your kids by showing them that violence. Jesus was a good guy, right? He was supposed to be without sin. He took on sin. He was supposed to be God's, God's favored, his only begotten, and all this stuff, right? So what are you teaching the kids is that even Jesus can be murdered, even Jesus can be abused, even Jesus could be subject to black magic. Jesus didn't want to get up on that cross. Oh yeah? You think he did? Really? Read about when he was in the Garden of Gethsemane and he wept and he prayed so hard that he bled. Yeah? You think he really wanted to get on that cross? He didn't. If he wanted to get on that cross, he'd have crawled up there by himself. They wouldn't have had to put him on it. They wouldn't have had to use nails in it. They wouldn't have had to keep him there. He didn't want to get on that cross. You wanna? You want to go ahead and get on that cross? Huh? I don't think so. Anyway, so R-rated movies, because violence, you don't want your kids to watch R-rated movies. You don't want them to play with the Ouija board. Well, to be honest with you, I don't want people playing with the Ouija board either. If you don't know what you're doing, Stay the hell away from it. Okay? Um, I don't like that either. But tarot cards and all this other stuff, you had all kinds of nuts stuff like that going on in the Bible, even in the Old Testament. What do you think casting lots was? Why didn't they inquire of the Lord and have that gut instinct just like, all the different prophets had, right? The word of the Lord came to so. Why why are people in trouble for using a tarot card when the Hebrews or the Israelites were using lots? That's, casting stones, if you will. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's the same thing as divination. Divination, like, there they are. I've got divining rods up there. Divination, just so you can get clarity, yes or no. It's like, you know, if you're not sure what your gut instinct is saying. Anyway, so the Bible's full of the same. You've got sex, violence, rapes, you've got murder, you've got cursings, everything. It's all in the Bible. Anyway, the bloodshed, again, you take your kid to a church, dead guy on a cross, it's just a representation. It's just a representation. Yeah, but you're traumatizing your children. The Roman tool of torture is what the cross is. And then here's another thing. Why are there three crosses depicted in many of these churches? Especially when I drive by this one place almost every day. And they've got three crosses, and on the middle one, they've got one body, which is supposedly Christ, and he's hanging up there. And it's gory detail. Now, the dude is half naked, okay? He's half naked. He's just got a loincloth on. And he's been tortured. And we have to drive by that and see that violence. No wonder we don't have peace in this country. We've got these depictions all over the place. Anyway, so why is it that there's three crosses? Because of the two thieves? Yeah, whatever. Okay, so it was in between two thieves. They had a conversation. So they're only going to show, so people are only going to show three crosses. Did you know that the roads of every conquered country that Roman took, all the roads to that city and to those countries, they had crosses lined up there. There was hundreds, if not thousands, of crosses. Hundreds, if not thousands. Tons. Think about it. And believe me, the Romans were brutal. They did not screw around. They were good to their own people. Once people became citizens, things like that, they were supposedly good to their own people. Anyway, that's another topic for another discussion for another day. People's bodies were all over the place. It was a disgusting, stinky, corpse-ridden mess in these roads going to these countries. So the cross is a fear symbol. It is a fear symbol, and it was for torture. So that's all I was thinking. Turks, this symbol is used all over the place, okay? The Turks used crosses to crucify. They did. They took example from Rome. They crucified the Armenians. There are pictures even today of Armenian women, naked Armenian women on crosses. They were crucified when the Ottoman Turks were committing genocide on Armenia. Okay? So the Crusades, the cross, again, the cross, the red cross, the Rosicrucians. There you go, Rosicrucians, which means rose cross or red cross. Oh, the American Red Cross. You really think that it's a freaking charity? How many buildings were built in Haiti with all the money that was sent to the Red Cross? Yes, I know it's an equal armed cross. I know that. That doesn't matter because you know what it means. And it's a stolen figure anyway. But I'm not going to go into that today. Anyway, the Inquisition. All right? And you had to take the cross. Millions upon millions of European women were murdered. Okay? Because they would not convert. They were accused of witchcraft. Or paganism or whatever, Satanism, all the nonsense that was made up about witchcraft. So anyway, but the cruciform was used there too. That's actually what the word means, cruciform. When you have an unequal armed cross, you've got the equal armed cross, which is equal armed, Okay. Then you have the cruciform, which is more like that. More like that. Okay. So it's called a cruciform because that's what they do is they crucify with it, you know. Anyway, so instead of carrying on about football, halftime shows, Harry Potter, um, the movies like what was that, Stigmata, The Craft, and whatever else they come up with. They got all kinds of devil ones and everything like that. Instead of, carrying on about that, you need to consider what kind of violence and what kind of crap you're teaching. I mean, King David was a murderer. Hey, baby girl. King David was a murderer. Okay, he was cheating and he stole another man's wife and he murdered, but later on was called a man after God's own heart, the Lord's own heart. Actually, it's not Elohim type. All right, so you got that all throughout the Bible. And that's some brutal stuff. I mean, it's a bigger soap opera there. And don't even get started. If you're going to think about sex and talk about sex and stuff like that, you don't want your kids seeing that. But you've got the Songs of Solomon in there. That's freaking porn, dude. That is some pornographic freaking book right there. All right. And if you don't know what it looks like, yeah, never mind. Anyway, so I've seen more evil in churches than I have seen in any pagan circle, any Wiccan circle, any movie. All right. I've seen the Passion of the Christ and it was pretty accurate according to the scriptures, right? That's some freaking violence right there. And my phone is ringing. Anyway,